This is TWiT. So Apple's spending $1 billion, they can afford it,
of course,
to buy Intel's smartphone business. We knew this would be the upshot, right? So the timeline of this is hysterical. So Apple sues Qualcomm, saying, you don't license the stuff to us cheaply enough. They were going to pay $1 billion to Qualcomm. They stopped payment. Qualcomm countersues. This goes on for years. All of a sudden, meanwhile, by the way, I forgot to mention this part. Apple calls up, I think Jeff Williams at Apple calls up the CEO of Intel and says, you have to make 5G modems for us. You have to. You have to. Intel says, we don't want to. We don't want to. You have to. So Intel goes, okay. They drag their feet. They really don't want to make these. Apple, I think at some point there must have been an internal memo. This is the smoking gun we haven't seen, where Intel says, yeah, we're probably not going to have those till 2022 or 2023. We're having some trouble making them. So, boom, all of a sudden Apple says to Qualcomm, you know, forget it. Here's your money. We promise we're going to license through 2025. We're going to be using your 5G modems. Thank you. The next day, Intel says, and we're out of the business. That's it. We didn't want to do it in the first place, but they have a lot of patents. 2,200 Intel employees will go over to Apple. Those are the engineers working on this ill-fated 5G effort. 17,000 patents. 17,000 patents will go over. Intel will retain the ability to develop modems for non-smartphone applications like PCs, Internet of Things devices, and autonomous vehicles, to which Intel probably says, yeah, but don't count on it. And Apple's going to start working on their own 5G stuff for the phones. $1 billion. This kind of had to be the final piece in that puzzle, right?
Well, Apple has always had the philosophy of owning the core technology.
Make it ourselves.
And the processor has been a sore spot for that because they're always licensing it out. Now they own not just the technology, but they've got all those patents. So they've got a war chest. Which means even if they choose to use
Lisa keeps doing the vertical.
Well,
non-vertical technologies.
It's all the way from design
vertical
to
integration.
the retail experience. There is no part of that experience where they're vulnerable to outside forces anymore. And from a business perspective, that's great for them.
However, there is one thing, which is Intel didn't want to work on this, not just because they were being mean. It was because all of their testing showed that the current 5G standards that are out there, they suck power. They are horrible for power. So how do you squeeze a 5G radio into a device that's already very power limited? Qualcomm has something that they're calling 5G. It's not really the same. I mean, Qualcomm's big tagline at CES was true 5G. What does that actually mean? We don't actually know what that means.
I think we'll find out like in December. They usually do a really big meet and greet for people who are in mobile in December in Hawaii. And my sense is that they're probably going to queue up whatever they've got going there. So we'll find out by the end of the year. But it's a good point about power suck because phones are now people's primary computing devices. And if you're like, well, good news, you have 5G, bad news, you have to recharge every 8 hours.
Exactly. Well, no, it wouldn't be, I mean, like what they were seeing a 200 to 300% power spike.
Wow.
At maximum 5G bandwidth. So what good is it to have a nice phone that you can only use for half an hour before you had to plug it back in?
Well, this is another thing is how many end users, or I should say how many civilian end users pay a lot of attention to which apps drain their batteries?
Can I point out that I think bandwidth's pretty fast on LTE, and it's for mobile seems to be fast enough. People are watching movies. They're what is this? This demand doesn't seem to be coming from consumers.
No, it's edge computing. It's the idea that if you're out working oil fields or agriculture or mining or someplace like that, and you have intermittent connectivity at best, when you do have it, you need small portable devices, and you need to send and receive information quickly, often under very urgent circumstances.
What Apple's 5G iPhone is
Apple's
for,
5G.
or Samsung's 5G
I guarantee you these guys are going to want to bring this stuff in the field, though. Apple gets it into the enterprise because users love the experience, and they're going to bring it in, and they're like, well, can't you make it work?
What is Samsung using in its 5G Galaxy? Are they using their own Exynos platform?
I doubt it. Their Exynos
using
is
Qualcomm?
one of the most unstable pieces of silicon on the market.
I don't have a 5G phone because we don't have 5G carriers, but do people who have 5G phones and 5G carriers complain about battery life?
Yes.
They do?
Constantly.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this may be pointless. this whole thing, right?
Well, 5G really makes sense if you want to replace a wired connection in a fixed location. That 100%, that's a better way to run it, an easier way for you to run it. But for me to have to walk around with a 5G radio that's using up power for bandwidth I probably don't need for what I'm doing on my mobile, that's not a great value proposition.
So why is Apple spending $1 billion?
Because 5G is bigger than 4G.
It's one more.
I was one more G.
No,
is it too fast?
Maybe it's also just they not enjoy, but it's a core business value to bring everything in house as much as possible and reassert control. And since they're already dominating the mobile experience, for them perhaps this is them saying, all right, we've eliminated all possible variables where another company can hose our product cycle.
They were mad at
Intel.
Like They've been mad at Intel for generations.
Yeah, I mean, Intel's been kind of screwing the pooch on this since 2016.
But at the same time, it feels like maybe we're rushing this whole 5G thing, and that and Apple has never been another core value of Apple is not been to be the first with any new technology, but to wait.
It's to establish the user experience.
Yes, and when 5G is ready.
Video on mobile pushed 4G. There is no killer app for 5G yet. There's nothing I want to do on my mobile.
There's no killer consumer app. I'm willing to bet that we're going to see a lot in
enterprise.
100%.
And all Android major manufacturers have 5G plans or have 5G phones available and will do by the end of this year. So Apple obviously won't have a 5G phone this year, we don't think. We sort of have rumors that there will be a 2020 5G phone. And so I think from the Apple perspective for both investors and consumers, if they don't have a 5G plan in place, they're going to see as being behind the curve.
They'll look laggard.
Absolutely. So they have to have that in store.
But see, that's a weird thing because Apple has never worried about that before.
The other thing I'd like to bring up is
this is a different Apple in a different environment.
We're talking about a really U.S.-centric perspective when it comes to 5G and killer apps and user experiences and things like that. And you tossed aside a comment earlier talking about how Africa effectively leapfrogged broadband bandwidth and went straight to mobile experience. We don't know that Apple's not doing this because this helps them to position their products more effectively in the Asian markets, where they have a much different mobile user experience than the U.S. has. We have to stop assuming that the U.S. is the primary market for any tech company.
It's not anymore.
It's just strange that Apple is rushing in to offer a 5G product when the 5G standard has not yet been established.
They are betting a lot on China in the future, though, and they're also. And I would be willing to speculate that they're probably also taking a look at how they can position a 5G or 5G adjacent phone in countries where Apple is not embraced to the same extent as Samsung or other Android-based phones.
But I mean, the best Apple, the most incredible Apple, the most innovative Apple has always been the one that said, we don't care if you're first, we're going to do it better. And the fact that we don't really know what 5G should look like now, it tells me this is not something Apple should get in right now.